My dog could probably sense it before I did stage 3 kidney disease. I was told it was untreatable, that dialysis and eventually a kidney transplant were inevitable. Everything felt hopeless. Then I started following Dr. advice, but I had to tweak it because many of the foods she recommended were off limits for me. Even so, the results were incredible. I've lost 30 pounds, my kidneys are in remission, and I don't even need to see my doctor anymore. And here's the big question we need to ask: is what you're eating protecting your kidneys, or silently harming them? The answer can literally be the difference between dialysis and full remission. It baffles me how many patients are still being advised to eat foods that actually hurt their kidneys. Sometimes, the right foods are completely counterintuitive, the very ones you were told to avoid. And that's exactly what we're going to explore today through an inspiring success story. Meet Lisa, a 46-year-old bookstore owner. She's lived with type 2 diabetes for 20 years, and in 2022, she was diagnosed with kidney disease. Her kidneys were declining, and her doctor told her to prepare for dialysis. But just 6 months later, Lisa is in remission, no longer seeing her nephrologist, and she's lost 30 pounds. She shared her journey with me in detail, including her before and after photos, and her story is proof that kidney disease can be reversed when you truly understand what to eat and what to avoid. Lisa isn't a kidney disease patient anymore, so of course, I had to ask her if she'd be willing to do a little interview for you all. She agreed, and here's how she shared her journey. I had kidney disease, and I put it into remission a year ago. Back then, my doctor told me I had stage 3 kidney disease and that it wasn't curable. He said I would end up on dialysis and might even need a kidney transplant, maybe more than one in my lifetime. I was just 46, and honestly, my outlook felt hopeless. I was constantly tired, anxious, depressed, and worried about my family. How would they manage without me? But then something inside me changed. I decided I wouldn't just accept that fate. I started looking for answers, anything that could give me hope. Can chronic kidney disease be reversed? Can stage 3 CKD be stopped? I was desperate for even the tiniest bit of hope. That was in 2022, when my stage 3B CKD had my creatinine at 2.1 milligrams per deciliter. I remember double-checking that number because it was so overwhelming. And today? My creatinine is normal. Thank you so much, Lisa, for sharing your story, and congratulations on your incredible improvement. Moments like these are what make my work so rewarding. If Lisa's journey inspires you, share this video with anyone you know who's struggling with diabetes or kidney disease. Give it a like too, so more people can see that hope is possible. You can improve your kidney function, and Lisa's story proves it. She was literally searching for hope, and today we know this: kidney disease is reversible. This isn't theory, it's a proven fact, and no one can take it away from us. I'm so happy Lisa discovered this, because very few doctors today will tell their patients that reversing kidney disease is possible. What makes her story especially fascinating, in my opinion, is the process of unlearning everything she thought she knew about a diabetes diet. Let me explain why. Back in 2022, Lisa's numbers were alarming. Her fasting glucose was 189 milligrams per deciliter, and her total cholesterol had skyrocketed to 367 milligrams per deciliter. Her doctor told her things were trending the wrong way. For 6 years, she had been on a strict low-carb diet, believing it was the best for type 2 diabetes. She ate just 25 grams of carbs per day. Each meal was loaded with eggs, dairy, beef, chicken, or fish, paired only with non-starchy vegetables or berries. She avoided anything that supposedly spiked insulin, no processed foods, no added sugar, no refined flour, no high GI fruits like bananas, melons, pineapples, or grapes. No starchy vegetables either, potatoes, corn, beets, none of it. She was careful. Very careful. Yet her fasting glucose kept climbing. So here's the question, can you see what went wrong? If you guessed that avoiding carbs was her main issue, you're spot on. It wasn't just that all the protein she was eating stressed her kidneys, it was that 25 grams of carbs per day is what you're supposed to eat in one meal, maybe a snack, not the whole day. Every meal she ate eggs, dairy, beef, chicken, fish was slowly harming her kidneys, making her gain weight, and keeping her fasting glucose stubbornly high. No matter how careful she was, her numbers refused to improve. So here's the big question, why is avoiding carbs such a bad idea for people with diabetes? I know despite all the research, some of you still don't believe me when I say that fruit is not only safe but necessary for diabetes. So instead of just telling you, let me show you. Here's why you should never replace fruit with meat, eggs, or dairy. Take this, for example, 200 calories of cheddar cheese. That's only 51 grams, a tiny portion. Just looking at it makes me hungry. And if I eat it, I know I'll want more. Many people don't realize this, but cheese releases something called casomorphins, a substance chemically similar to certain narcotics. Eating cheese gives your brain a little hit of dopamine. It makes you feel good and encourages you to keep eating. Now compare that to 200 calories of honeydew melon. That's 200 grams of sweet, juicy, delicious melon. When I see this plate, I think, I couldn't possibly eat anything else. You'd actually need to eat more than 500 grams over a pound of honeydew to reach the same 200 calories. Remember, the only thing that truly helps you lose weight is calorie control. And excess weight is the main thing keeping people with diabetes from going into remission. Yet somehow, one of these foods, the melon, is forbidden for most people with diabetes, while cheese is considered okay. Now you can probably see why, while Lisa was avoiding melon religiously, she couldn't lose weight or improve her numbers. Same calories, totally different effects on your body. One leaves you full and satisfied, the other just makes you want more. So, why on earth would anyone tell people with diabetes to avoid fruit? Why would they insist you eat this and skip that if your goal is actually better health? Sure, you probably shouldn't eat 500 grams of melon in one sitting if you have diabetes, but what about a moderate amount every day? That's where the magic happens. Everything changed for Lisa the moment she started to get informed. She began following my advice and the latest research on kidney disease. At first, she had to do some tweaking because many of the foods I recommended were technically off limits for her. But the results left her amazed. I went from being a couch potato to having trouble sitting still. I couldn't believe how fast I lost weight. By day 17, my cholesterol dropped over 100 points. In the past 3 months, I've lost 30 pounds, lowered my cholesterol to 281 without statins, and my GFR is now over 60. I always exercised a bit, but now I move more, and I love my morning walk before work. I'm full of energy, and as a bonus, my depression and anxiety are gone. My doctor was blown away by these numbers. She said I'm in remission and that I don't need to see her anymore, except for diabetes checkups twice a year. Lisa chose a low-protein, plant-based diet to reverse her stage 3 kidney disease. Just 6 months later, her kidney function improved so much that her nephrologist told her she didn't need to come back. But it didn't stop there. She also shed a lot of weight, her cholesterol dropped, and her blood sugar levels are far better than before. Asked her one question: which foods that were once forbidden are you eating now? Here's what she told me: I changed my diet like you suggested in your videos. I didn't realize it before, but the foods they told me to eat for diabetes, eggs, dairy, meat, fish, are all high in protein. Now I eat more fruits and veggies, even the ones I was told to avoid. I always include a big serving of fruit and a big serving of vegetables with each meal. Here's another tip I always share, especially if you're trying to lose weight: start your meal with fruit and vegetables. They naturally fill you up, so you end up eating less overall. Of course, if you're someone who needs to maintain or gain weight, say, in stage 4 kidney disease, then start your meals with more calorie-dense foods instead: healthy fats like oils, nuts, seeds, or higher carb foods like bread and pasta. Here's what Lisa does in her daily routine: I eat potatoes every day. And I love honeydew melon especially because it's available even in winter. These two foods, once forbidden for her, became a game changer for weight loss and kidney recovery. Honeydew melons are incredible, low in calories, packed with vitamins and nutrients, and rich in fiber. That fiber slows down sugar absorption and supports gut health. Sure, melons have a moderate glycemic index, but because they're mostly water and fiber, they don't cause major blood sugar spikes unless you go overboard. Potatoes are another underestimated superstar. Especially red potatoes, they're rich in resistant starch, which isn't fully absorbed in the small intestine. Instead, it reaches your large intestine, feeding the good bacteria in your gut. Studies show resistant starch can reduce insulin resistance, helping blood sugar control and overall metabolic health. Lisa also started enjoying other forbidden fruits. I love grapes so much now that I freeze them to enjoy all year long. Mangoes too, they were all off limits before. For 6 years, I avoided these foods, thinking it was the right thing to do, and my health only got worse. Then I started eating melon and potatoes regularly, and in just 6 months, I lost 30 pounds. Lisa is now completely in love with all those sweet fruits she was once told to avoid, and for good reason. They're incredibly healthy. Way to go, Lisa, and thank you again for sharing your journey with us. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, one person's story isn't enough. I still don't believe melons or other fruits are safe for diabetes. Okay, fair. But what if I told you there's 500,000 people behind the evidence? There's a study that followed 500,000 people over 7 years, published in one of the most respected medical journals, The Lancet. The question was simple: is fruit good or bad for people with diabetes? Here's what they found. In people who already had diabetes, eating fresh fruit more than 3 days a week was linked to a 177% lower risk of dying from any cause and a 133% to 28% lower risk of developing diabetes-related complications, including kidney disease, compared to those who ate fruit less than 1 day per week. Think about that: less risk of death, less risk of kidney disease just from eating fruit. The study authors concluded that restricting fresh fruit in people with diabetes is actually a mistake. Of course, you don't need to eat half a melon every day. Moderation is key, but the message is clear: don't avoid melons, don't avoid fruit. Eat it in reasonable portions, and your blood sugar will stay in check. Science is on your side. If you have diabetes, more fruit is almost always better for you. Now let's move on to another story. I've always been a bigger person, but also extremely active. My kidneys were healthy for years until a psoriasis diagnosis changed everything. The medications I needed began to take a toll on my kidneys. Suddenly, I was staring down a diagnosis of stage 4 chronic kidney disease, CKD, and type 2 diabetes. My doctor's advice was simple: lose weight and prepare for dialysis. But I wasn't ready to give up. I dove into learning everything I could: classes, books, research, determined to take control of my health. That's when I discovered something incredible. I could actually improve my kidney health by eating more fruits, not less, and by using one powerful herbal remedy. Over time, I reversed much of my kidney damage and learned to manage my diabetes. Today, dialysis is no longer a threat. I'm safely in stage 3, leaving my doctors genuinely astonished. Now, let me introduce you to someone equally inspiring. Deborah, a 69-year-old mother of 4, has been living with diabetes for many years. In 2018, everything changed for her. She decided to take control of her health, and she did. She stopped the progression of her stage 4 CKD, significantly improved her A1C, and is now in stage 3B. Today, she dedicates her life to guiding others on how to do the same. What made the difference for Deborah? 4 key changes: nutrition, mindset, and most importantly, an herbal remedy that had a remarkable impact. What surprised me most when Deborah shared her story was this: she managed her diabetes by eating more fruit. Yes, it sounds unbelievable, but it's true. I had to know which fruits she loved most, because combining a renal-friendly diet with diabetes management often feels like a tightrope walk. She had to carefully balance potassium, sugar, and avoid long lists of foods. And yes, many vegetables that are normally great for diabetes, like potatoes, tomatoes, squash, beans, and zucchini, were too high in potassium for her kidneys. But here's the good news: it's not all restrictions and frustration. There are foods that work for both diabetic and CKD-friendly diets, and Deborah discovered exactly which ones allowed her to heal and thrive. Her journey is proof that with knowledge, persistence, and the right tools, you can take control of your health even when the odds feel stacked against you. Let's talk about some of Deborah's favorite foods, the ones she credits for helping her manage diabetic kidney disease so effectively. So, Deborah, which foods have made the biggest difference for you? I really love barley, she says. I think it's one of the best whole grain alternatives to rice and pasta because it's low in potassium and phosphorus compared to almost any other whole grain. Absolutely. She's spot on. Barley isn't just kidney-friendly, it's a low-glycemic grain that's excellent for diabetes, and it's packed with magnesium, which can help lower blood pressure. What really makes barley a superstar, though, is its soluble fiber called beta-glucans. This fiber has been studied extensively and is linked to a long list of benefits: lowering cholesterol, reducing inflammation, improving blood sugar management, and much more. Another favorite of hers? Leeks. Here's what Deborah says: by mixing things up and experimenting with seasonings, I was able to enjoy a wide variety of meals. Leeks are perfect, they add subtle flavor to anything without being overpowering. And she's right again. Leeks are more than just tasty, they're packed with sulfur compounds that support circulation, boost the immune system, improve gut health, and even stimulate kidney function. Sulfur plays a key role in detoxifying the body, which is especially important for someone managing CKD. Deborah's journey shows that when you choose the right foods, even simple, everyday ones, they can truly transform your health, one meal at a time. So, what about fruits? Deborah's favorites are plums. I've even learned how to dry raw plums at home, she says. That way, I don't have to buy those sugary prunes at the store. I just take plums from my tree, sprinkle them with fresh thyme, and let them dry in the oven for 3 hours. And honestly, that's a brilliant choice. Plums are fantastic for blood sugar control. They release carbs slowly, which helps keep levels steady for people managing diabetes. Another fruit she grows at home is pears. I love making my own sugar-free pear jam, she shares. It's wonderful to enjoy the fruit from my tree whenever I want. Honestly, the diet helped a lot, but the one thing that really boosted my results was a natural remedy I discovered. It's amazing for managing diabetes. I had to ask, wow, Deborah, it sounds like you really put your heart into this. How did you make your diet feel so manageable? She laughed softly. It became a hobby. 3 years ago, I started to gain weight again, and my kidney function wasn't improving. I struggled to get fresh vegetables, and in early 2021, my GFR was only 13. My renal dietitian suggested I go plant-based. Simple switches made a huge difference. I switched from dairy to almond milk and creamer, stopped eating eggs, and swapped chicken for fish. I focused on natural, unprocessed foods as much as possible. Of course, there were challenges, especially watching my potassium, but over time, I lost about 50 pounds and have maintained it. My husband and I even grow our own vegetables and herbs. Turning our diet into a hobby made shopping fun instead of feeling like a restriction. So, there you have it. Deborah not only loves her fruits, but she's also managed to get her kidney function back on track, all while enjoying every step of the journey. So, the big question is, can you eat fruit and still make progress with diabetes? This is something a lot of people worry about. Many believe that fruit is full of sugar and should be avoided at all costs. I've even seen diabetes patients comment on my videos saying, "I can't eat fruit, it's bad for me." Imagine avoiding fruit entirely. Think about what that would do to your kidneys, your energy, your overall health. Here's the truth, it's a myth that diabetics must avoid all fruit. There are no forbidden fruits on a diabetes-friendly plan. In fact, research shows that eating more whole fruits can actually improve insulin levels and help with blood sugar control. Choosing fruits lower in sugar can help, but really, most fruits can fit into your diet as long as you pay attention to portion sizes. Remember, fruit is food, not dessert. The idea that fruit is off limits for people managing blood sugar is one of the biggest diabetes myths out there. And people like Deborah are proof that you can include fruit in a kidney-supporting, diabetes-friendly diet and thrive. Before we dive into the herbal remedy that made a huge difference for Deborah, she shared one habit that changed everything for her. I kept a food tracker. I logged everything: snacks, meals, even little tastes. Carbs were still part of my meals, but my diabetes improved. I even made my own bread and pasta, and I lost almost 40 pounds in the process. It's proof that with awareness, care, and consistency, you don't have to give up the foods you love to take control of your health. What truly made the difference for Deborah was knowledge, reading, learning, and taking control of her blood pressure and blood sugar. But getting there wasn't easy. You see, Deborah describes herself as a person of size, and for many doctors, that's the first thing they notice when she walks into their office. The easiest, most surface-level advice? You have to lose weight. There was no conversation about a kidney-friendly diet, helpful supplements, or adjusting her medications to protect her kidneys. But here's the thing, her weight wasn't what caused all her problems. Deborah and I spent a lot of time talking before making this video. She shared some of her medical records, and looking back, it's clear, what damaged her kidneys wasn't her size, it was the medications she was taking. A diagnosis of psoriatic arthritis set her on a regimen that took a heavy toll. For 2.5 years, she was on 1,800 milligrams of ibuprofen daily to manage pain. Then came weekly methotrexate injections and prednisone, and she was told to continue the ibuprofen as needed. Later, she was prescribed an umbrella therapy that helped her arthritis, but her kidney disease progressed and so did her diabetes. She started noticing blood in her urine. Lab tests revealed her kidneys were failing, and her A1C had skyrocketed to 13. That was the moment Deborah decided to take her health into her own hands. Dialysis might have been on the table, but she wasn't ready to give up. And she wasn't alone in recognizing the true cause. Her nephrologist confirmed it. These medications, ibuprofen, methotrexate, prednisone, were the real culprits. Long-term ibuprofen at that dose alone can seriously damage kidneys. Methotrexate is toxic to the kidneys, and prednisone is notorious for causing insulin resistance. It's no surprise that Deborah only began to improve once she changed her lifestyle and diet, reducing her reliance on these medications. And here's something even more remarkable. There's one remedy Deborah credits with making a huge difference in her journey with diabetes and kidney disease. This remedy can lower blood sugar by over 30%, reduce cholesterol by up to 50 milligrams per deciliter, and even support weight loss. That remedy is berberine. I wasn't surprised when she mentioned it. Over the years, I've met people with diabetes who visibly lost weight and improved their blood sugar just by taking berberine before meals. Doctors were often as amazed as their patients when blood sugar levels started dropping, without any other major changes. These benefits aren't just anecdotal, they're backed by large studies, showing that berberine works consistently for everyone. By the way, I know so many of you watching have your own inspiring kidney health stories. If that's you, I'd love for you to share them in the comments so we can celebrate your journey together. That's all for today. Thank you so much for watching, and remember, knowledge, care, and the right choices can truly change your health story.